Hi everybody, it's Dave from Telephone World. So what we have here today, and trying to give you here a little bit of an intro before I get started with the video, is that back in October of 2021, someone had posted a picture of this particular payphone to a group I belong to called Exploring Virginia. And it basically said, hey, I found a working payphone in a town called High Waters, Virginia, and it actually has dial tone. So this very intrigued me because I didn't know of any working Northern Telecom Centurion payphone, which is what this is, anywhere in the United States, let alone Virginia. So I looked up on Google Maps and said this is about 3 hours away from where I live. So I said, okay, one of these times I'm going to take a day off of work and make a trek over to this place called High Waters, Virginia. Unfortunately, the day I decided to go over to High Waters happened to be the first day of winter, and it was about 25 degrees outside, so it was very cold. So basically, I went there and did as much as I could before I was freezing and said, okay, that's time to go. So let me give you a little bit of a intro of what this is and how this is in 2021 parlance. So the telephone company here is Mountain Grove, Williamsville, and it is a very small independent. It is about an hour west of Charlottesville, about 30 minutes west of Stanton, Virginia. So this is definitely in the western part of the state and fairly rural. I thought it was more rural than what it actually was, but since this is on US Route 250, it was actually busier than what I had anticipated to be. As you can see in the picture and in the accompanying video, this is actually right next to the road. It was one of those things where it was like, oh, you know, I can go there and record it and it's going to be fairly quiet. No, it was not. So this actually made things a little bit of a pain in the butt. And the way I was able to record it was using one of those digital dictation recorders. And I had found in my stash of stuff a very old telephone recording coil. You know, the ones that has the suction cup thing that you put on the telephone receiver, and that sort of kind of worked if I smushed it into the receiver, but when I did that, I can't actually hear what the audio is coming out of the phone, so I just had to make a guess of what was going to happen coming out of there because I made a few test calls before I started recording. So let me give a little bit of a background here about the payphone and how calls were made from payphones prior to modern day. So dating back to when payphones like this were in their heyday in the 70s, 80s, and into the 90s, how you would make calls would depend upon, of course, first of all, the type of payphone. So basically you had three basic types of payphones. You had post-pay, prepay, and coin first. Coin first was the one where you picked up the phone, you had no dial tone at all, and you actually had to put in the initial deposit, like 10 cents, 25 cents, or so forth, to actually get dial tone. And then that would actually cause either the tip or ring to go to ground, and then tell the telephone company to actually put power on the line. Then you can actually get a dial tone and make a call. And if you had to insert more money, it would return the money to you, but the line would still be active, and then you would redeposit that initial deposit plus whatever you were asked to deposit to make a long distance call. Prepay calls were where you actually would pick up the receiver, you get a dial tone, and put in the amount that you needed to deposit to make a local call. It would cause a ground between either tip or ring, and I forget which, to ground, and then the phone company would say, okay, it would realize that you had actually made a deposit, so the CO switch would actually realize it. Now, granted, of course, that for either one of those, either coin first or prepay, the central office switch would have to have something called coin control. And when coin control is, it basically says, hey, I realized you've made a deposit, and based upon whether the call answered or not, we would either deposit your money into the coin bucket or return your money. And how that worked was that basically it would send either plus or minus 130 volts back to the phone itself. So that's what that actually does. But if a central office did not have coin control, and this particular central office doesn't have coin control, what it is that they use a system called postpay. And how postpay works is basically is that you pick up a phone, get a dial tone, and you go ahead and make your call. If it was a local call, what you would basically have to do was that when the phone answered, the central office would do a reverse polarity on the line, and the payphone was meant to handle that. Was basically it would mute the mouthpiece and mute the touch tone pad when the polarity was reversed. So bottom line was that you could hear the party, but they couldn't hear you until you put in the deposit, and then it would allow you to talk. So this one was definitely that way, and I'll prove that here in a minute. But it was in a sort of a unique way. So how did payphones actually handle long-distance calls and operator-assisted calls? So going back again to the 70s, 80s, and into the 90s, how this worked was that as cordboard operators were being replaced by systems that are more automated, such as TSPS, the Traffic Service Position Station, how that actually worked was that your call went into a more of a centralized system, and when you would get an operator, you would basically tell the operator, okay, I wish to make a call to this location. They would look up on their system how much you have to deposit. You deposited the money. They would count the amount of quarters, dimes, and nickels you put in the system based upon the amount of beeps they would receive. Like a quarter would be 5 beeps, a dime would be 2 beeps, and a nickel would be a beep. And later on, they came up with a system called ACTS, ACTS, which is Automated Coin Toll Service, and that came into service around 1977. And how that worked was basically it would automate the procedure where it would basically let you, the customer, know using voice prompts from Jane Barbie was how much you're supposed to deposit. Deposit so much for the first 3 minutes or for the first minute or whatever, and then you would actually count the amount of beeps of the quarters, dimes, and nickels that you would put in. So that was actually a very good system, and again, that came out roughly 1977 and implemented nationwide over the course of a couple years. Operator-assisted calls went through a similar system. It also went to TSPS, but how that worked was basically initially, again, you would go to the operator, and the operator would route your call for collect, person-to-person, or they were more and more using the calling card system. And eventually, they came up with an automated method for the calling card system, again, by the late 70s, early 80s. And how that worked was basically you would hear what's called the bong tone, and then you would either dial 0 for the operator, or you would punch in your 16-digit calling card number. And this was pretty much the case up until 1984, when the breakup of AT&T and the Bell system changed things from a payphone perspective. So starting in about 1985 or so, you started to see things change. And the change was that basically the difference between intra-LATA or within your own LATA, or inter-LATA or outside of your LATA long-distance calls and operator-assisted calls. So anything outside of your LATA was still going to go through AT&T, and the process of either 1+ or 0+ calls for station-to-station dial long-distance calls or operator-assisted calls did not change, and that still went through TSPS. But for intra-LATA calls, things started to change where instead of going through AT&T's system, the dominant phone company, which oftentimes was a Bell system entity, would basically set up what was called a TOPS system. And TOPS is the Northern Telecom equivalent of TSPS through probably, I think it was a DMS 200. But the philosophy is that it would be sending calls that way, and it would be handled more internally because of the way intra-LATA calls were handled up until about the 90s. But even then, for payphones, things didn't really change that much. But the way that worked through TOPS was, instead of getting the prompts from a Jane Barbie voice, you would be hearing a, believe it or not, a French-Canadian type of a voice, because again, Nortel was out of Canada. So that's definitely something I wanted to try here at this payphone to see if in 2021 would this phone company actually handle calls differently, because I tested something up in Pennsylvania several years ago and with Frontier, and Frontier was still handling calls with intra and ladder long distance differently, again dating back here to again the mid 80s forward. So I just wanted to see if this payphone would handle things any differently. So I tested that, and I'll talk about that here as I go along. So, all right, I think at this point I can go ahead and start the video and show you what was going on there in the big, wonderful town of downtown High Waters, Virginia, and then go ahead and make some phone calls the best that I could with a telephone pickup coil pushed up into the earpiece of the receiver, and see if I can actually get something recorded onto some audio and see if I can show you guys exactly what was going on here. Good morning, everybody. This is Dave on December 21st, 2021. Yes, in 2021, we still have a working payphone, and this payphone is a Northern Telecom Centurion. It is located in a town of Headwaters, Virginia. And see if I can actually forward on that sign up here. It's called Headwaters, Virginia. This is located in the dab smack in the middle of no place. And people are wondering, saying, why is there a payphone out here? Well, there is absolutely zero cell phone coverage. I have both a Verizon AT&T cell phones, and neither of them had a signal. So there's probably a good reason why this payphone is actually still here. But the philosophy is that this is in Western Virginia, about an hour west of Charlottesville, about a half hour west of Stanton, and this is in the dasmack of what is called Shenandoah Valley. Have you ever heard of the song by John Denver about country roads? He was talking about this place, not the state of West Virginia, but Western Virginia. So as you can see, I'm sort of on a main road. This is US Route 250. Again, not a heck of a lot here, as you can obviously tell. I mean, you know, cars do pass through. There's a closed general store across the street called Miller's Store, and there's like a old school over here, obviously abandoned school. But again, you know, the philosophy is that, you know, this payphone is still a working payphone, and it is central office controlled, which again for December of 2021 is very amazing. Now, of course, people are saying, why are you out here in the middle of no place in December of 2021? Well, the reason why I'm out here in December of 2021 was that on October 30th of 2021, there was a posting on the Facebook group called Exploring Virginia about this payphone out here in Headwaters, Virginia. And I had to say to myself, it's like, well, wait a minute, it is a working Northern Telecom Centurion in the United States, which is extremely rare. You see them in Canada, because I was up in Canada in 2019 in Alberta, and I saw a few of these Centurions working. Some weren't working, and I saw some Millenniums. But yeah, no, this one is actually still working. It does have dial tone, and I'll make a few test calls and I'll show you. Now, the thing is that, you know, I can't make test calls and hold the camera at the same time, so I'm going to do this in sort of like a modified Evan doorbell sort of way. So I do have a recording thing to actually record calls. And I keep stopping the video because every time a car comes by it makes a lot of noise. So I have a audio dictation device and one of those really substandard recording coils that you're supposed to put on the back of a phone that I found very, very poor. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put this and smash it into the receiver of the phone and see if I can actually get some audio out of it and record it. So I'm going to put the phone down, put the camera down, and then I'm going to dig out the recording device and make some calls. So again, I'm going to do this sort of like in a modified Evan doorbell way, and then I'll paste that into the video. Alright, here I am at the payphone. I'm going to make some calls here in a minute, as long as traffic will subside, and you can obviously tell, you know, this is actually a fairly busy road, even though I'm sort of in the middle of no place. Now, I looked at some Google Street View from 2009, and this was actually in a booth at the time, so that this is now a freestanding phone. But again, we're lucky here in 2021, we actually still have a working payphone. So go ahead and record some calls, and I will post these up on the video. Alright, let's get started. So I picked up the phone to get a dial tone and to see how long that the dial tone lasts before it times out, see what type of recordings you get, and see if you get the off-hook signal. Now, it's interesting that picking up the phone like this is an exceptionally fast and clean dial tone, so it's one of those things where I'm saying to myself, I wonder what type of switch this is. I looked it up, and I thought it was supposed to be a Nortel remote switching center, and I don't think that's the case. I think this has been upgraded to a soft switch. And I looked on some of the listings on the local exchange routing guide, and it said that this phone company also has a soft switch called a C15 or a Nortel CS1500, and I think that's the case now. So it just sounds clean, and it just is fast, and it's very fast reacting, and it's like, yeah, I think this has been upgraded to a soft switch.
If you'd like to make a call, please hang up and try again. If you need help, hang up and then... If you'd like to make a call, please hang up and try again. If you need help, hang up and then dial your operator. If you'd like to make a call, please hang up and try again. If you need help, hang up and then dial your operator.
The next thing I do is I get the number of the payphone. It was listed on the payphone itself, but you know, sometimes you don't trust those things, so I wanted to go out there and use a service called ANI, or Automatic Number Identification, to determine what the actual number of the payphone was. So I used MCI's ANI service. So I just dialed 800-444-3333, and it did match up with the number of the payphone.
Thank you for calling MCI. Our system indicates you are calling from 540-396-9315. If this is the number you are calling about, press 1.
Another test that I performed was to determine the routings of the payphone and all of the other landlines from this area to see which AT&T tandem it wound up on. And I found it a little interesting. First of all, it's going off to 159T, which is a new N4E or next generation 4ESS tandem that AT&T started several years ago. But the philosophy is that 159T doesn't appear to be anywhere in the general area. From what I've been able to determine, it's somewhere in southeastern Pennsylvania. So it's just one of those things where it's like, I was expecting like 804-9T, which is a 5 ESS down in Richmond, or maybe 078T, which is the 4 ESS in Richmond, or I think is still there, or some other 4 ESS in the region, maybe DC, Northern Virginia, Maryland, so forth. But southeastern Pennsylvania, that's sort of interesting. So Just thought I'd again see where AT&T calls go to.
You have dialed a number that is not available from your calling area.
159T.
You have dialed a number that is not available from your calling area.
159T.
Here I am dialing the operator as £0, and it's going to go to the MGW operator platform.
Welcome to Mgw Long Distance.
For a collect call, press 1. For a rate quote, press 2. For a directory assistance call, press 3. For an operator, press 0.
Here's 4011 reaching the MGW Long Distance platform.
Welcome to Mgw Long Distance.
Here is 988 to see if they have implemented the suicide prevention platform.
We're sorry. Your call cannot be completed as dialed. Please check the number and dial again.
Here is 611 reaching MGW repair service.
Thank you for calling MGW.
If you know your express routing number or extension number, you may dial it at any time. You may repeat this menu by pressing 1. To order new service or get more information, please press 2. To make a payment, press 3.
Here is 511 reaching Virginia 511 service.
Welcome to the Virginia 511 Traffic Information System.
Here is 211 going to a not in service recording.
We're sorry. Your call cannot be completed as dialed. Please check the number and dial again, or call your operator for
Dialing 311, which is also not in service.
We're sorry. Your call cannot be completed as dialed.
Here's a number which will reach an MCI tandem and give you a not in service recording. So anywhere you're at in the country and you dial this number, 800-483-6595, you'll get a ID from your local MCI tandem. In this case, it is 2EA, which is Richmond, Virginia.
Your call cannot be completed as dialed. Please check the number and dial again. 2EA. Your call cannot be completed as dialed. Please check the number and dial again. 2EA.
Here I am dialing the payphone number and then immediately getting a busy signal. Again, it's just so quick and so clean that this switch has to be a soft switch and is probably no longer an RSC, even though that's what the records show. Here I am attempting to dial a 0+ call to 0206-555-1212, and it doesn't go through.
sorry, your call cannot be completed as dialed. Please check the number and dial again. Or
This call goes to a voicemail platform for Verizon, and it does soup, so I was testing to see if the phone would actually experience a polarity reversal from the switch, and the answer is yes. And then you hear me trying to use the touch tone pad, and the touch tone pad is also disabled. So definitely it's something that is interesting, because this is an interlata call, though within my own area code and my own state. It's just an interesting thing where, it doesn't go to TOPS, doesn't go to OSPS or anything like that. The call just goes through, and then you could actually put in 50 cents to the payphone, and then you can actually talk to the person. So I have no idea if this is timed, untimed, or what. But it's very interesting to see that, you just dial a long distance call and it goes through.
Welcome to Verizon's voice messaging service. To leave a message, please re-enter the number of the person you are calling, followed by the pound key. If you are a subscriber to this service, press the pound key now.
Alright, so that's pretty much it here from this payphone. So as you can obviously tell, you can't do a heck of a lot here, because long distance technically is not allowed. However, I was able to make some calls. Probably was going to leave a bill at the phone company for this payphone. However, there's nothing stopping it. That's the problem. It just goes on through. So it just sort of surprises me where they'll let long distance through. Again, you have to pay for it if you actually want to talk to somebody, but they'll let it go through. So that's very amazing. No operator-assisted calls, because, of course, OSPS hasn't been around for several years. But it's just one of those things where it's like, in 2021, it's very surprising to see what you see here. So I'll definitely be back here in the spring and summer when the weather is a lot better, because it is cold and my fingers are freezing. However, it's really cool, having this payphone out here in the middle of no place, dealing with the traffic and things like that, by a farm, by a nice little creek, by a house, by another house, and then the school up here. So yeah, this is kind of cool. So, if y'all want to go ahead and call it, it's actually pretty cool. Or come out here 3 hours away from Fredericksburg, which is where I had to drive out here from. But again, it's kind of cool. So, I hope you enjoyed it.